It's time to go. Let's get some rapid chess in. This is not part of the speed run, to be clear. I'm playing at 2600. We're trying to make it up there to 3000 in rapid. And yeah, it's certainly time to go. Okay, e4. Let's play e5 here. Have a full king pawn repertoire. Really hoping they go with bird's defense because, if they don't go with bird's defense, I don't. Honestly, like, probably I should reveal the secrets to the Italian game at some point. But yeah, just right now, I don't feel comfortable doing so. All right, so this is literally one of the most boring positions known to man. Um, the whole idea here is you play bishop b4, they take here, you take back, and just a very boring structure occurs. I guess in itself, the structure isn't that boring. It's more that it's just been so heavily exhausted. In my course, I recommend a few things. One of the ideas is this. This is something that's honestly, it's pretty well known in upper circles. You could still definitely go for it. You take, they take back, and then you play queen e7, and it gets a bit crazy. I think most white players are expecting it, though. We'll go with the classical stuff. I've probably played this stuff for like 15 years. I remember drawing a very, I remember getting a very unpleasant game in Las Vegas in 2014 in the North American Open in this position. It's just very boring. It's very tepid. Is tepid the right word or insipid? I'm honestly not sure. I'm gonna have to double check, but it's very boring stuff. Like in itself, the structure should be interesting. We have an extra central pawn, but white has slightly better pieces. And yeah, just the whole problem is that it's just been exhausted. So we're gonna go with Natierlis's recommendation. This is from Natierlis's book, which is written back in 2016, E4, E5, a classical repertoire. I think he just recommends H6 here. You could also play bishop E7 or bishop D6. We'll play H6 here. It just forces white to make a decision, and yeah, we get to this interesting endgame where our structure is really ugly, but on the other hand, we have the bishop pair. So all in all, it's not that bad. I gotta remember how things go. Like, the really critical thing here, we do not want to let him just trade bishops. Like, pretty much, like, one of the main things here is that if knight d4, bishop f5, we want our bishop to be back here. If our bishop is on d7, then it's going to be hanging, and we're probably going to be forced to trade. From what I remember, rook e8 is the move, and we're just clearing the way back for this bishop to come back. We want to get these pawns moving, but if to get them moving safely, we're going to have to first get our bishop out of the way. Yeah. By the way, guys, let me know in the comments. I'm down to record more of these. I'm down to record more of these rapid games. But y'all gotta let me know pretty much what you want me to record, because honestly, I'm a busy bee. Boss man is breathing down my neck 24/7. Bro, boss man woke me up at 8 in the morning, told me to get going. Anyway, regardless of boss man though, just let me know in the comments what types of videos you want me to make. I'm still neck deep in this Two Nights Tango course, but honestly, that is coming to a close. I'm like 14% done, and I've only been at it like 2 weeks, so it's getting done. That course is probably going to be done before March. Yeah, let me know. I have some high aspirations for this channel. Yeah, it's time to go. Okay, so we got our bishop out of the way. Let's throw the pawn to c5. One of the ideas of this bishop here, it looks ugly, but when their knight comes to f5, it's just putting really no pressure. Our bishop is securing this pawn. So something that's really cool here, and this is a cool method that's just useful for chess in general. When you have ugly doubled pawns like this, normally ugly doubled pawns give you some good squares to post your pieces. We could just post a rook here and go for a double-double. The old classic double-double. Yeah, if he ever takes here, he corrects my structure, and all of a sudden we have a very nice central blob of pawns. The old classic blob of pawns. Yeah, pretty much, by the way, guys, I'm not sure if you noticed, I'm trying to talk full, like, I'm trying to go full through this video without stopping talking, and the whole point behind that is that I ran the numbers. I pretty much just don't have time to edit videos, so if I want to publish these videos daily, I need to just keep talking, and yeah, I need to just keep talking and not edit them at all. And eventually, when Boss Man stops breathing down my neck and I'm done with this Two Nights Tango course, I can go back to editing. I'll learn the fundamentals. I'll learn all that stuff. But for right now, I just don't have the time. So, yeah, you got to make sacrifices sometimes. All right, this is weird. Let's play a5 here. This can't be bad. Just might throw this pawn off the board. I really want to get him to push this pawn. If he pushes this pawn here, then his b pawn becomes weak. Like if he pushes this here, we'll just play rook b8 and start shifting over. That looks crafty, but it doesn't really do anything. I'm just going to line up on his bishop. Yeah, this looks perfect. Bro better pack his bags, because it's time to go. Yeah, man, this is going to be very interesting. Honestly, just having to talk throughout this entire video, I think it's going to be giving me... Well, isn't he blundering a pawn here with bishop a6? Yeah, what's this about? Bishop a6, king g1, takes. I take here. If he moves his rook down to e8, I could play rook e2. This is weird. I don't want to let his rook get into e8, though, you know what I mean? Like, that's going to be a little uncomfortable. Let's just, I'll go for the double-double. We'll play rook e5 here. The old classic double-double. If he plays f4, yeah, if he plays f4, then I'll probably have to take, because I don't want to play rook e4. f4, rook e4, he takes, I take, he plays knight e3. That's not good. But yeah, speaking of which, if I just have to talk full stream throughout this entire episode, then that's going to make me much better at streaming. I am going to start streaming at some point. It's just right now with all these different things on my plate, I can't juggle anything. But yeah, it's going to happen. At some point, it's going to happen. I'm probably going to stream either the Title Tuesdays or the Thursdays, but this will be starting in March or April. Just right now with the Two Nights Tango course and all this other stuff, I'm probably going to have to start recording that E4, E5 part 1 at some point. They haven't done the beta test for it yet, but they are going to. And yeah, it's going to be time to go. I got to master this ability to just talk endlessly, even if it's about almost nothing. But I don't want there to be dead air in these videos. Like, these are long form videos. I want y'all to be watching the full 30 minutes. I got to keep talking. It's time to go. Yeah, man, we're just waiting here, pal. What flag is that? Is that the Welsh flag? That has a dragon on it, doesn't it? Nice. All right, so yeah, we don't want to play rook e4 here. Let's start by throwing in a check, asking him the big questions here. If he moves his king here, we're going to take. Yeah, this is going to be super weird. I guess he's going to play king g1, takes, rook takes b2. He plays rook e8. That is complicated stuff. Yeah, that is very complicated stuff. All right, you know what? We're going to take here. I'm going to play a... Uh-oh. This just dropped a pawn. Why did I just do that? I completely missed that. He could just take with the bishop. Yeah, that was so silly of me. All right, I guess I sort of blundered into something decent, though. Bishop takes a4, rook takes b2, rook e8. I can take on a2 then and hit his bishop. So I don't actually think that would be the end of the world. It would just... Definitely a bit of a blunder here. I didn't need to do that at all. I think I should have played d4, actually. Yeah, back here, d4 takes. He can't take with the knight because of bishop c5. I should have just gotten this pawn rolling. Why didn't I do that? All right, he plays rook e8. What are we doing here? I pretty much have to take here. If I move the rook, then he's going to take, and go on the merry-go-round, and that's not going to be fun. All right, yeah, let's take here. Don't have a choice here. I'll play a3. Looks ugly. It's going to sacrifice a pawn, but his structure is going to look extremely ugly, and the idea is takes. I'm going to play d4 then. If he plays b3, bishop d3, bishop b1, yeah, he has to take, even though his pawns are going to look hideous. We're playing d4 here, pal. Takes, knight takes, and I play bishop c5, and I win the knight. Very complicated stuff. This is actually one of the reasons, though, I just really hate these openings, because in these positions... Yeah, in these positions, you're just going to have to find some endgame that, you might be slightly better in, but it's unbelievably boring. All right, if he plays king f2, it's not even unbelievably boring. It's that if he literally just finds like maybe 10 accurate moves, you're probably going to draw. He's playing a4. Aren't we winning after d3 though? Because king f2, I play d2. d3, bishop b5, we play d2. He plays, no, takes, I'm going to make a queen. So d3, bishop b5, d2, knight e3, bishop c5. Yeah, and we're threatening d1 queen there. I guess he has to play king f1, but then I take and I'm threatening queen. Yeah, that's winning. All right, I think he made just a big blunder there. This pawn is running to the end zone. A really critical thing is king f2, d2, and he cannot play king e2 because my bishop is covering it. Yeah, I don't know how he's going to get out here. This was a huge mistake because now his bishop can't come back here. All right, I'm playing D2, man. I'm going for all the marbles. It's time to go. Click that resign button, pal. The game is up. Look at this, actually. Knight e3, bishop c5, king f1, bishop takes. Still got the broken mouse. Bishop c5, king f1, takes, king e2. I think bishop b7 is the simplest. Oh, there? Well, no. Let's just make a queen. Man is pinned. Yeah, this is over. All right, yeah, let's look at the game review, man. Oh, guys, you seeing that? You seeing that? This is Grandmaster Intuition. That's a beautiful, look at that graph, 97.6. I know what this was. This was A4. Yeah, this was when I played A4. I can't believe I played A4 here. Anyway, let's get into this game, though. Very interesting game. You know, I hate this opening so much, but probably given how well I played this, I shouldn't be that averse to playing this again. But anyway, takes. As I mentioned before, I have a very interesting move here. But I also recommend this move as an alternative. This is covered already in Plicta's E4, E5, but I also gave some alternative variations on it as well in my course. This is going to be in part 2 of my E4, E5 course, which will probably be out, I don't know, maybe in June of this year. Takes, you play queen e7, they play f3, you play d5, and it's a little frisky. I just can't remember the theory here. That's why I didn't go for this. But suffice to say, it is in my course, though. So takes, we play bishop b4 here. All of this. D5, takes, bishop g5, c6, h6. Yeah, we don't need to worry about the doubled pawns because we're going to have the bishop pair. And it's also going to be an endgame, right? Like, so keep in mind here, if I were to go for the structure with queen still on the board, this would not be good because then our king would just be way too weak here. But once our queens are off the board, he just doesn't have anything left to attack my king with. So this is completely fine. This is a very well-known position. It's analyzed in that famous book, E4, E5, A Classical Repertoire by Nikolaus Natyrlis. That is one of, honestly, the best books out there on E4, E5 positions. I think some of his recommendations are a little too equal and a little too bland for people who like this channel, but even so, it is a very good book. Just understand that some of his recommendations are more on the solid side. Anyway, knight e2, rook e8, knight d4, bishop b7. Yeah, I think this is all theory. I think this is all recommended in the Natyrlis book, pretty much. We don't want to play bishop d7 because then he can play bishop f5, and he's forcing a trade of these bishops. And this is exactly the type of position we want to avoid. Once he trades off the bishops, his knight gets really firm control over this square. And with his knight on this square without bishops on the board, it's almost impossible for me to ever attack this knight. If I ever play rook e5, he can just play g4 and cement the knight there. Notice in comparison, for instance, you know, when he puts his knight on f5 here, his knight is still stable here, but because we have bishops on the board, I can always sort of push him around, and that would require his bishop always stay on this diagonal. For him to use this outpost here in these positions with the bishop still on the board, he has to inconvenience his pieces a lot more, right? Without these bishops on the board, all he needs to do is put a pawn on g4, and there's nothing the problem there. With bishops on the board, he needs to keep his bishop covering this square. All right, so anyway, we got rook e6. Apparently, I should just play a5 immediately. Yeah, a5 is a classic idea. I'm just going to throw this pawn up the board pretty much, and he can't really do anything. If he ever plays b3, we just play a4 with a crunch. All right, maybe not immediately, because in this exact case, he can take, and deflect my rook, and then take here. He's going to install the bishop here, and I don't have full compensation. But yeah, in this position, though, we're really just waiting for him to push these pawns somehow, because once he pushes these pawns, they're going to start to be a few weaknesses. Like, now when he plays b3, in a lot of these positions, we can even play c4 here. And the idea of c4 is takes, bishop takes. We're just going to play rook c8, crash through here. All we've achieved is just exchanging off all these pawns here. I guess this isn't the perfect example, but this is just what I'm trying to say. Something like this. We haven't actually done anything besides exchange these pawns off, but that really allows our bishops to flourish because our bishops are going to gain a lot more diagonals in the process. And so that's the pretty nice thing here. As long as you're introducing new tension over here and not actually losing a pawn, such as after this, which was why this was bad, because it allows them to take, and then grab a pawn. As long as you're introducing tension without allowing them to grab pawns, you're doing pretty well here. Now, I know what you might be thinking, like, Raven, this position actually looks quite interesting. Why don't you like it? Well, it's because at higher levels, this endgame has just been so overanalyzed. You just get to some endgame that your opponent has literally played like 50 times. That's why I don't like these positions. And Yeah, I mean, in short, if you know these positions well enough and you like these positions, feel free to play them. I just didn't recommend this in my course because it's so overanalyzed. Um, and if you're a grandmaster like me, if you're a grandmaster like me and you get this position and you play it against a 2000, if I'm playing a 2000, the 2000 is going to know this position quite well. But meanwhile, what do I have to deal with there? If I draw, I lose 5 points. If I win, I gain a point. So it's a losing battle. The only way to lose is just to not play, or the only way to win is just not to play to begin with. Not to play this opening to begin with, because even if I win, it's going to require like 4 or 5 hours of exhausting mental effort. Because even though they're only 2,000, they've played this position a bunch of times. So their relative strength in this exact position is probably something like 2,300. Maybe I could still outplay them, but it's going to be a very, very long grovel. It's going to be like squeezing water from a stone, so to speak. All right. So anyway, to get back to the game though, like long story short, if you're a GM and you're watching this channel, first of all, thank you. And you know exactly what I'm talking about. These positions are super hard to grind for a win just because your opponent will have had so much experience in these positions. Like if your opponent plays this regularly on chess.com, he will have gotten this position or this type of position probably 1,000 times actually, because this happens all the time. Bishop b4 is an overwhelmingly popular move, and from bishop b4, all of these moves are almost forced. All right, so let's get back to the game. So in this position, where were we? Okay, so here, rook e6, king f1, rook e8. I just doubled up. There's actually no need for this. I should have just advanced immediately. Yeah, I think I was getting too lost in the sauce here, but rook e8, g4, I played a5, bishop b5, rook b8. Yeah, he still has nothing to do. I'm just leaving my rook here. If he ever takes here, he corrects my structure, and all of a sudden, this fantastic central swath supported by my bishop here is going to be a really big advantage. Look at this. It's already close to winning here. All right. So bishop e5 here, bishop d7. I played rook e5. I should have just played rook b6. I got too focused on these squares. Rook e5 makes a mistake in that it allows... I don't even think f4 is good, though, because f4 is going to be weakening a lot of his squares. He's pushed his pawns too far over here. But even so, the problem with rook e5 is that then my rook becomes inflexible. I can never shift over to the queen side if I have to. I should have just played rook b6 here. If he plays b3, oh, I could play d4. Wow. And if takes, can't he win the pawn here? Oh, what am I talking about? I just missed this. Yeah, so yeah, pretty much we want to play d4 in these positions if he can't grab the pawn. And I just missed this. Yeah, knight takes, rook d6. Man has to try c4 in this position. But c4 is actually quite bad here. There are other positions here where if his bishop's on d3 in this position, he's actually doing fine. Like, let me just maneuver the position a bit. Of course, obviously, a bunch of these moves are bad, but if he gets his bishop here, from what I understand now, it should be very close to equal. I guess even here we can still play a4 and play for a crunch, but like, let's say we waste another move, then it should just be equal. Oh, apparently if he plays bishop e4 and trades, that's also equal because I think his king is going to be coming to d3 in the long term. But yeah, like, so despite the structure looking nice in itself, the whole problem here is now these pawns are locked in the way of our bishop. So you want to be careful about getting this structure. Like, I guess in this exact position here, this whole structure is fine for us because his bishop is going to have too many problems. We're going to play rook d8, bishop a4. His bishop is just sidelined on a relatively useless square. And yeah, we can play d3, and it's going to be very hard for him to blockade this pawn, right? Like, how is he going to get to either of these squares in time with our bishop ready to come to f3 and dig into the rook that would come to d1? Yeah. All right, this is very interesting, honestly. Yeah, for the GMs out there, like, maybe this endgame isn't worthwhile for you to be playing because your opponent's going to get a lot of experience. But if you're at lower levels and you like this type of endgame, then I actually think this would be completely fine. I just chose to avoid this endgame in my repertoire in my e4, e5 course that's going to come out in June. I just chose to avoid it just because, like, this, it's just been very overanalyzed. I wouldn't really be able to offer many new ideas here. But yeah, actually, it looks like if you spend enough time to really study these structures, there's still tons of ideas and tons of like variance between these structures to offer the more experienced player good chances. All right, so anyway, so this happened, rook e5. I checked. Yeah, I should have just taken here. I was afraid of rook e8 though. Then I play bishop d3. He takes. I play king g7. He checks. I didn't like this position because I thought my bishop was going to be bad and its opposite colored bishops. Wow, I just take here. Yeah, this pawn is going to be a huge advantage. And I thought that my bishop was going to be ugly here, but we're going to play c4 long term and just get the bishop out. He has no way to stop c4 unless he wants to give another pawn, but then that would give me 2 new passed pawns here. Yeah, this would be winning. All right, I completely missed that. I just, for whatever reason, I just thought that he would just have check and back and forth. Honestly, I missed this bishop d3 move. I was looking at stuff like this, and then he's just going to take and then go for a draw here, because of course my king is tied to this bishop here. I'm going to have to stay in this merry-go-round forever. All right, anyway. So a4, rook e8, takes. Yeah, a4 is an obvious mistake here. He should have just taken on a4. Even here, though, I'm fine. Look at this. Takes, rook e8, I just take here. Now he gets the merry-go-round, though. Wow. All right, so yeah, I guess this was just a draw. a4 was definitely a mistake. I should have just taken on b2 and gone for that type of endgame. A4, man played rook e8, takes. I play a3, takes d4. Yeah, this is interesting, right? Takes. This is still a bit tricky. Man needs to treat this pawn very carefully. This is a passed pawn. I have 2 bishops on the board. He should just bring his king over. King f2, d3, and he should just bring his... I was thinking he should bring his king further over, but if he does that, actually, I might be able to take. It looks like I still have some tricks here. Yeah, this is tricky stuff. If I ever take here, he can grab another pawn. Yeah, this is very tricky. I mean, ultimately, like, the thing is I do have some things that I could play for. There's some, like, tricks that I could play for here, but ultimately the only real way I could ever win this is by getting this pawn up the board. Like, if these ever get traded, if I ever lose my d pawn and he loses his a pawn, even let's say he loses his h pawn as well, there's too few things I could try with these doubled pawns here to really get anything, and so that limits the amount of actual tricks I have. That limits the amount of, like, really critical ideas I have in the position. So because of that, as long as he just plays carefully, it should be a draw. There's just not enough here, and he'll just slowly reroute his pieces to deal with this d pawn. So something like, I don't even know here. He's going to have to bring this king back. So something like, or bring this knight back. So something like knight f5, knight g3. Where would he put his knight here? I guess he would want to put his knight on the light square because he has a light scored bishop. So, like, ideally he would get his bishop somewhere like c2 and his knight to d3. Or if he has to, just he'll play knight f5, wait for my pawn to go to d3, and then blockade on d1. Yeah, I mean, in all these positions, there's still a lot of tricks, but it's just going to be very hard for me to ever win the a pawn without losing the d pawn in return. All right, anyway, he made a blunder here. He played a4. That's a really big blunder. I just started pushing. I kept pushing, and yeah, he just has no way to stop it in time. Knight e3, bishop c5. His knight is pinned, so I'm threatening to make a queen immediately. He had to try king f1 here, but takes. He's losing a knight, and I could just play bishop b7 here, and I'm threatening to check and make a queen. If he plays king d1, yeah, if he plays king d1, I could just start grabbing the pawns here, and if a5, then I even have cool ideas like check here and bishop c6. I'm just going around. It's going to be very hard for him to resist here, and ultimately it should just be completely winning. I'm just up a piece here. All right, so what are the takeaways from this game? Takeaways from this game is that this endgame is actually still quite interesting. If you're not expecting to be playing people who have that much experience in the structure, there's still plenty of chances. But if you're going to be playing someone who's had dozens of games of tournament experience in the structure, then you might want to choose something else to play against this system. And yeah, besides this, the other takeaway is just that yeah, the 2 bishops are really impressive here, right? 2 bishops. Structure is extremely ugly here with these pawns here, but because I had the 2 bishops, I always had good counter chances.
It's time to go!